Hey there, and welcome to another tutorial using my alcohol ink brushes for Procreate. What I'm using here is the brush called Flat Inker, and I'm just laying some black ink down, overlapping it to get it darker in some places. And I'm using now the Heavy Bleed Blender brush to blend some of the edges in, but not all of them. I'm going to leave some of those harsh edges there, because that will look more realistic, like real alcohol ink, if some of it's blended, but then there's some harsh edges elsewhere. So now I'm going to get this peach color and put down some more ink with that flat inker again. So this is a pretty popular look if you look at a lot of alcohol ink art. So I'm just going to try to emulate this look digitally. So I've put down some blue ink now, some grayish blue ink, and I'm blending it with the same blender brush again, Heavy Bleed, and once again leaving some of the edges harsh and other ones faded. And this brush will take the ink in whatever direction you go. So if you want the color into the black, you'd go towards the black. If you want the black into the color, you go towards the color. So I'm just kind of blending the edges around. Okay, now I'm going to grab the hair dryer brush, and what you do with this, the technique that seems to work best for me, is you use a lot of pressure and go pretty far out to begin with, and that will give you these nice harsh edges. And then you do it again right over top with less pressure and not quite as far. And you do that as many times as you want to get sort of a realistic look, like you've been blowing it outwards with the hair dryer. And this is something that people use a lot on real alcohol ink. They use a hair dryer and a heat gun. This is a brush called Heat Gun, and this one's a little bit more ripply in real life, so that's why this brush will take things in sort of a circular motion and add ripples as many times as you go over it, and it will drag the ink from where you start across. So you can drag white across the color, or you can drag the color across the white and get some interesting ripple effects that way. So now I've gone back to the blender brush, and I'm just blending, again, selectively blending a couple of areas, but leaving some other edges there to make it more realistic. And this is a brush called Negative Space Ring Blender. I know it's kind of a ridiculous name, but I've just wanted to make it obvious what it does. Maybe it's still not. But what I'm doing here is I'm just going in a circular motion on the edges, and it's meant to look like you've dropped isopropyl alcohol right on the edge, and then it sort of seeps inward and makes this sort of ring effect, like negative space. So this is a really popular look. So I really wanted to include that look in here. So you just kind of start along the edge of where you want to add this effect. Okay, so now I'm using a brush called Disappearing Ink. And this is a brush that completely erases itself based on pressure. So what you can do with this, and what I'm doing here, is I'm adding edges selectively where I want a bit of a harsher edge along these sort of circles that I just made. So you can add the edge and then like press harder on the bits that you don't want to keep there. So I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense. You'll see when you start to use the brush what I mean. But I'm just kind of adding an edge and then pushing harder along the bits I don't like. And you'll see here in a minute, I've got a bit up there that I don't actually want to keep the edge there. Oh, I'll do it in a sec here. Come on. Okay, that bit right there, I don't actually like it, but I like the rest of it. So I'm just going to take the eraser and get rid of it. There we go. So I'm just adding more little rings with this Disappearing Ink brush, pushing hard on the bits I don't want, and then sort of fading my pressure towards the ring so that it doesn't have a harsh line on the inside of the ring. It's only harsh on the outside of the ring. Now I'm going to use my foil liner brush with the gold color that's included in the color palette that comes with these brushes. And I wanted to show you what the foil looks like as opposed to the ink splatter, because the foil is just a bit more solid, and it's meant to look like adding foil or gold leaf to your painting. So it's solid in some places, and then it just starts to look flaky on the edges. And so that's kind of what that's meant to do. And you can see I was getting a little bit excited with the with my painting at this point, and I started moving the iPad around and forgetting that I was filming. So I'm just going to go a little bit more quickly through this part until I figured out what happened and then moved it back under the camera. Okay, there we go. So just adding some gold ink splatter on top of the foil now, just to make the edges a bit more spread out. Okay, and now I'm using the Heavy Bleed blender one more time, just to do a couple of the edges outward, just to make some of those a bit softer and leave some of the harsher ones again. So now I'm going to add some white splatters. And what I like to do, sometimes if I don't want to splatter all over, I'll just kind of go off the side of the canvas. Like I'll tap, not even on the canvas, just on the side, if I just want a couple of dots. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, you're welcome to get in touch.